Welcome to ESVN, the Emma Sports Vigeland Network show. My name is Emma Vigeland, and this is our last time streaming on the Majority Report channel. If you're checking us out here, go and subscribe. youtube.com/ESVN show. You will get all of our streams, all of our live shows in the future. So check that out. That's where you get OT, where you can hear about Bradley's and my picks against the spread for each week in the NFL. And once the NFL's over, we gotta like get creative with that. But we're in the middle of a competition, and I gained a game on Bradley this weekend, but only because of our levels of incompetence, respectively. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, and also
I'm wearing black in mourning.
You mushed yourself by picking the Jets against the Patriots.
For my 0-3 week, my heat check is no longer.
Yeah.
Let the drought begin.
Well,
I'm sure you must be really pleased with yourself, Emma. I mean, I hope you're really happy.
If my week had been better, if I had gone 2-1, say, and had gone with my initial instinct to go with the Panthers against the Ravens, which not in terms of winning, but with a plus 13-point spread, I just knew that was way too much. They ended up covering, but unfortunately, the Eagles totally let me down by only winning by 1 point. But
right.
Anyway, how are you?
I'm upset.
Yeah.
Broadly, for many reasons, existentially, emotionally.
Well, we will
mentally.
get into the Jets soon. I mean, we got to do like a little bit of housekeeping, and by that I mean, everything that isn't our NFL coverage out of the start.
Let's just get it out of the way. Let's get it out of the way before we really get deep into the misery here.
Exactly. I mean, and the Giants game was infuriating as well. It took me back to last year and the years before.
It was a rough week for New Jersey-based New York football franchises.
Yes. And like, again, we will get into all of that. But right now I'm currently monitoring the results of the US v Wales World Cup group game.
Happening right now.
Yeah. If you're listening later, this is happening right now, and it's 1-1. And the United States had the lead until very recently, so we'll see how this ends up. But on the topic of the World Cup, it's been a bit of a disaster so far, as has been anticipated for many years, with just the stadium the stadiums all had to be built. The country where this was being hosted.
How can we be mad at Qatar for being such big job creators?
You're right.
They're just creating jobs.
I know. I don't know why I hate small businesses. But I mean, like, we could have seen this coming.
Small aristocracies.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally fine to critique Saudi Arabia, but I gotta
take it easy. I got a developing country. It's doing its best.
Doing its best as hundreds of migrant workers die in the process of trying to make these facilities
that will probably most likely not be used after this is over.
Talk about like a lack of sustainability on many different levels, including just like the resources that it took to build these facilities that will never be used again. The fact that this is taking place in one of the hottest countries on the planet, and thus housing people requires a significant amount of like energy to make sure people are comfortable coming from different countries. But that's not really even happening. We have a TikTok here from somebody who is staying in one of the fan villages, and like the accommodations it's not Fire Festival level with the mattresses being wet, but it's not far off. And at least when you're comparing it to the Fire Festival, the mattresses are not wet. People were not sold on this being a luxury experience. And so that's kind of where the differences end. So this is just a fan who is staying in one of the World Cup fan camps, taking you on a tour of where some of these fans are staying.
Come with us as we stay the night in one of the World Cup fan camps in Qatar. So one of these tents is £175 per night. It took us a while to find reception, but we found it in the end. This is us getting shown to our tent. Here we go. Welcome to my crib. So it's pretty basic, 2 single beds, and the ground felt a bit bumpy, so I had a little inspection, and yep, that is sand underneath. There was electricity and pretty decent Wi-Fi, and we had 2 padlocks to lock our tent. So this is us checking out the facilities. This is the toilet. Unfortunately, this area didn't have any toilet paper, so we had to go searching for that. I would maybe advise letting the water run for a bit before you brush your teeth. Oh, and here's Nesta saying goodnight. Night, Nesta. Now, we woke up the next morning, and the first thing that hit us was the heat. It was pretty hot in there.
That's 29 degrees.
Did have a fan, though, but
over
at this
80
point, it just felt like it was pushing hot air around.
Fahrenheit.
We got a breakfast box in the morning with a small bottle of water and an instant coffee, but there was nowhere to fill up with hot water. Off for a shower in the morning.
Just snorted.
But unfortunately, I forgot to pack a towel, and there was none at reception. We had a bit more of a walk around, and it still felt slightly unfinished, considering there was 2 days before the World Cup. The staff assured us it would all be open in time.
Well, there you go. Thank you for that tour, Emily Brooks, 723. Now, I mean, here's some more images of this that a reporter, I believe, of the BBC also put up of these fan villages. I was convinced they'd have to have air conditioning. They'd have to, right? Just in terms of not getting sued, but there must be some ironclad legalese there. We spent the night in the fan village near Lusail Stadium. Guests slowly checking in to find they couldn't buy drinking water, blah, blah, blah. It's 30 degrees. So again, that's like 85, 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Near a shop, an hour walk. No one knows where the wristbands are. We're told the festival is meant to kick off at 6:30 p.m. I mean, like, the whole wristband situation is very Fire Festival where you have to load up your wristband to pay for money, so they get cash up to pay. Oh wait, this is Fire Festival. Damn it!
This is it?
I think this is actually Fire Festival. Okay. Oh, I got fooled. Another fake Twitter account.
Wait!
I think that's actually it.
No.
Yeah.
Wait, no, they're showing Johnny Infantini's face there.
Okay, so am I?
I think you're that's.
No, this is okay.
That's the FIFA president
holy
right there.
Holy shit! Okay, so I just got completely fooled.
You incepted yourself.
I know, right? Twitter has me all in my feels here. I'm nervous that I'm getting stuff wrong all the time. I mean, okay, so there we go. Yeah, this is not Fire Festival, but it is also on gravel with the ocean right near. Yeah, and so no, like, the water does not necessarily seem to be clean. People have to load up wristbands to buy water, and that system doesn't appear to be working that well. You also have a situation where the ticket app apparently crashed ahead of the England game, so people who thought that they were able to get in on their phones were not able to do so. And on top of that, beer not being served at the stadium last minute, because despite the fact that FIFA had this multi-million-dollar deal in place with Budweiser, Qatar said no, we're just not letting that happen. So
I'm sure Budweiser is thrilled to know that all of their money that is going to sponsoring this global event will also include 0 concession sales now.
Yeah, I mean, well, apparently they're going to still sell it outside of the games and stuff, but still, I mean, it just, can you imagine? England fans, what are they going to do without beer?
There were some, I think, fans from Ecuador, I'm pretty sure was the country, who were like, chanting basically like queremos cerveza, like we want beer. As they should. It's a sporting event.
As they should.
It's
I mean, I get mad enough.
Me.
I get mad enough coming in on the train to MetLife that they stop serving beer after halftime because they don't want people drunk driving. But it's like, dude, I came in on the train.
Yeah,
I came in on the train. I'm allowed, please.
Can't I show my Metro card or like my NJ Transit ticket to provide me with an extra beer?
Let alone no beer when you pay all of this money to travel to Qatar and then you have to stay in a air-conditioned-less
essentially
tent.
a bona fide shipping container.
Yeah, or
A-
a shipping
a
container if
sardine
you're
can.
lucky. And in the hot weather. And the reason that they have to do this is because there was a corrupt deal that got Qatar to host the World Cup in the first place. They used migrant workers in horrible conditions to build these facilities, and they died. And FIFA has to kind of cover their ass at this point. A big part of their covering their ass, I should say, is this is the FIFA president, Gianni Infantino. That's his name. He decided to, really take a stand on Western hypocrisy when, people were critiquing the conditions at the World Cup in Qatar. Now, there is a case to be made, of course, that there are a lot of Western critics, white critics, people in the global north who are incredibly hypocritical critiquing Middle Eastern countries. I mean, we've talked about this all the time. The United States' entire posture on Iran is hilarious given our close relationship with Saudi Arabia. We talk about how Israel is a democracy here in this country when they have a apartheid system where Palestinians are second-class citizens and are unable to participate in the democratic process in many of the occupied parts of Palestine. And so, there's a lot of hypocrisy in the West when it comes to different countries in the Middle East. No shortage of material there. However, it rings a little bit hollow when the reason that you're even in this situation, FIFA and Gianni Infantino, is because of a corrupt deal that you put yourselves in because of payoffs, allegedly, and other kickbacks that were provided to executives in order to host a World Cup in this country that was built on migrant laborers who died in the process. So you don't really have a leg to stand on here. But he's going to try. Let's see if he pulls off this high wire act.
Very strong feelings. I can tell you that. Today I feel Qatari. Today I feel Arab.
You feel Arab?
Today I feel African.
Oh boy.
Today I feel gay.
Oh. Nice.
Today I feel disabled.
What?
Today I feel a migrant worker. Have very strong feelings.
Today you feel gay? Man, maybe you want to act on that, buddy. So that was full Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't realize Infantini. He must have commiserated with some of his Italian American brethren.
I know he's a Cuomo-sexual and a homosexual for the day.
Yeah, for the day at least. And he must have enrolled in the Andrew Cuomo School of Rhetoric. Really inspiring work there.
Today I am disabled.
It's like, well, you know what, buddy? A lot of those signifiers, they apply to people permanently.
Yeah,
and they have to deal with the ramifications of all of that while you sit up there in your suit and basically reap the benefits of blood money for a global soccer tournament.
Yeah.
So you really aren't disabled or gay
or a migrant
worker. Because you know what? Unlike some of these migrant workers who paid the ultimate price for building these fucking stadiums, they're dead and you're not.
It is just shocking that he even went to the gay part. That's when, of course, it descended into utter madness because homosexuality is illegal in Qatar. It's punishable by a few years in prison, I believe. Maybe not the time to be making that case. But these corporate executive types, they don't know anything other than indignance as a way to deflect. Either they lie or they're indignant. And he chose the indignant route. I think lying might have been a little bit better.
I also I get frustrated seeing people listen, as you said, you're correct. there is a level of hypocrisy when it's impossible to also ethically consume anything here.
Mm-hmm.
No question. But that shouldn't then flatten or dilute the extreme ethical problems that come with hosting this tournament in this country under these circumstances.
It's like
it doesn't
saying,
cancel one of them out. This is not a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
Just because America is shit doesn't mean this isn't shit also. A lot of things, there's a lot of shit to go around here.
yeah, it's like saying, climate change is really a systemic problem, and then after you make that case, shooting like a rhino in the face. It's just like,
Yeah.
okay, well that doesn't excuse
it's like-
your actions on this front. Like, okay, you made a larger critique about how we can't exist in a society without being a part of that society, right? Or you can't, like, critiquing society. We still have to be a part of that society, right?
Like the idea,
but you don't need to actively make it worse.
right? Like this wild idea that like he's checkmating the United States and other countries because like we've also committed human rights atrocities. So does that negate the other human rights atrocities?
Yeah, like,
Or
okay.
are those does that resurrect the migrant workers who died building these stadiums?
Yeah,
I don't
hey,
think
dude,
so.
Dude, like, if you want to, we'll see this point. There's probably no country on Earth over the past 50 years that has been responsible for more deaths in the world than the United States. Okay? Boom. That point is agreed on. What now? What now?
Yeah.
The point is that, like, that's nothing, that has nothing to do with what you have structured here.
What did you expect me to think after that you said that, Johnny? Oh my God, I'm a migrant worker too now.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's like,
I'm gay and disabled and a migrant worker and Qatari as well.
those are the magic words, and
Jeez.
and you are then like Freaky Friday
me.
into one of their situations. Yeah. Anyway, cringe.
Yeah, well, and then, but other than that, that's kind of like, other than that, Miss Lincoln, how was the play? So U.S. is tied with Wales, 1-1 still as of now. England kicked the crap out of Iran, which was I'm not particularly surprised by severe talent disparity there. But it's early. There's still it's still just the group stage. There's a lot more footy to be played. But at any rate, obviously it's one of those things like you can't. I have no qualms with anybody watching this because, like we've said, like there's not a whole lot of ways to ethically consume literally anything, let alone national institutionally backed sporting events. And it's not as if any of the other ones before this have had any less of an ethical qualm as well. You know, they were bulldozing favelas in Brazil to make way for stadiums that they never use anymore. They were prosecuting and penalizing extrajudicially gay and queer people in Russia in the one before this. It happens everywhere. All of these events come with that fraught moral calculus of enjoying the event while knowing what it took to make it happen.
The Olympics are like this as well. I mean, the Olympics
100%.
should be in one location every year because when they aren't, it involves unethical labor practices like we discussed, the displacing of indigenous people, poor people in many of these countries to build these kinds of facilities. And a lot of it is just like an influx of international money with very little oversight and a government that is incredibly incentivized to make sure it happens at all costs, regardless of the human toll on people's population or on these countries' populations. So the World Cup and the Olympics should stay in one spot only. And
But then the geopolitical lottery the lottery wheel wouldn't continue to turn.
I know, and the executives at
the money
FIFA
grubbing and the smoke and mirrors that are and the cloak and dagger backroom dealings to get these events to bring in tourism revenue would stop.
Yeah, I mean, think about how these resources could go towards just like anything else, combating climate change,
housing people,
feeding people, right? It's clean
giving
water,
people medicine.
Yeah, it's
But nope.
This is our world. But on that depressing note, let's turn to another one: anti-Semitism.
Yeah, you know what? It's the you're gonna have to eat your vegetables first, folks, before we get to some games, okay?
Yes. And I mean, Kyrie Irving He's back.
He's
He's
back.
back. He put up like 14 points last night against the Grizzlies, and
Probably Ben Simmons' best game, to be honest.
I didn't like see enough of the game to make a determination, but did he play well?
Played well, had a good moves on defense, 25 points,
Wow.
like very, I think people needed I'm as much as like the next guy kind of having like, skepticism surrounding his ability just because he's missed so much time and had so much weirdness surrounding his last few years as a pro basketball player. But there's a reason why this guy was the number 1 overall pick at some point, and I think honestly, if he can even get remotely back to like 50 to 60% of who he was in the beginning of his career with the Sixers, I think he can really help the Nets team. And if they can kind of shake off this stink, which I don't think is necessarily possible, he could find a real role there. But yeah, it was weirdly, he's also, while Kyrie came back, weirdly also quietly Ben Simmons' best game.
Yeah, I mean, and Brooklyn's a mess, and that's on the court as well as the kind of controversy surrounding the team because of Kyrie Irving, even though like they kind of go hand in hand at this point. But basically, he was reinstated. He spoke about how he wanted his opinions to be had in peace, right? And when he had his initial press conference about his sharing of the anti-Semitic film based on an anti-Semitic book, he said, I'm not promoting it. I'm not promoting it. I just put it up on my page. Promoting? Who's promoting? Acting really dumb about like the definition of promotion. We're not alleging, Kyrie Irving, that you were paid to promote this movie. This isn't a club appearance. This isn't a deal that you would do with I don't know. Who had his sneaker? Was it Adidas or Nike who just dropped him? Either way, it's not one of those promotions. You just did a free promotion for an anti-Semitic film, which kind of makes it worse. Almost makes it worse because it means that you actually believed it. So his
it was Nike, yeah, it was Nike.
Idiocy about this, just we're not as dumb as you think we are. Kyrie Irving, as you pretend to be like a faux intellectual, trafficking conspiracy theories.
To your point about the club, like it wasn't like he was doing an appearance at like One Oak or something, and One Oak's Twitter account was like,
yeah,
makes you think, check this movie out.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Bro,
right.
You posted it yourself, dog. Like,
yeah. And so
gotta live with the consequences of that.
These are the consequences. This video. Like he claims he wasn't promoting this film. He claims he wasn't promoting this book. And yet there were dozens of supporters of Black Hebrew Israelites outside the Barclays Center on Sunday who took it as such. They took it as such. They took it as validation and promotion of their beliefs. That they are the true Jews. That Jewish people, as they identify, as just they are in real life, are imposters. And that Black people are the true Jews, the true chosen people. Now, as I've said before, I'm immensely sympathetic to the notion that in this country, we had an economy and an entire country built on chattel slavery. And so sometimes people are susceptible to narratives of empowerment. Doesn't mean it's right. Does still mean that it's anti-Semitic because you're denying the existence of Jewish people. It's and as I said before, pushing back against white supremacy, liberation of a variety of different groups. It's not a zero-sum game. So there doesn't need to be one chosen people, right? This is just a conspiracy theory to make one minority group the puppet master demonizing force that you get to oppose. And that's wrong. It's bigoted. Still is bigoted. And he's inspired all these people here. Take a look. I mean, that's hundreds. I thought it was dozens. It was hundreds. supremacists, but then that's them chanting, "We are the real Jews." So seems like they took it as a promotion. And for all the people who are like, "Oh, well, the media, they were the ones who they talked about it and that got more promotion than Kyrie Irving actually doing it." Critique is not the same thing as promotion or advocacy. He's a public figure. He's going to get criticized. What, are people just not supposed to oppose what he's saying in these instances? That leaves the vacuum. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. But those people just don't actually want to engage in combating anti-Semitism. Kyrie Irving has done a lot of damage. Same with Kanye. I mean, it's just they are exploiting an understandable tension within a group that has been so systemically subjugated in this country, and it sells snake oil on a false promise of liberation and of like power, but it's actually just bigotry. It's the same recipe.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because there's there becomes layers to this. Obviously, the players' union wants to support Kyrie and repeal the suspension and the terms that were supposedly dictated as well. But, while I understand that fully from a players' union perspective and a labor perspective, as a person on a team, you don't, even if you're affiliated with the union, like Jaylen Brown is on the Celtics, you don't have to retweet. You don't have to quote tweet a video of these black Israelites who, to be clear, we just watched the video. What they were chanting that.
Yeah,
Jaylen
Brown's
Jews
now
implies,
saying he
like,
he didn't know what they were saying or didn't hear it. I'm just gonna give him the benefit of the doubt.
He's also not vaccinated. But,
but, okay. Well, there you go. I didn't even know that.
And there's I think there's a slight reason for that, and that he has. Jaylen Brown in my opinion, has a little bit of the Kyrie bug as well, in that he is an intelligent guy, but he is intelligent in a way where he feels like he's
it's the Aaron Rodgers, Kyrie
kind
Irving
of like the big brain syndrome.
And when you're wealthy enough, like you can find something online and it cloaks itself in faux intellectualism, and you feel like you everything you say makes sense.
Exactly. And also, and I think listen, I think I genuinely, and that's the hard thing. That's the tough thing with all of this, is that, and what's frustrating is, like, I don't even think I think Kyrie, what frustrates me so much about all of this is, like, I have in many different facets, like during the 2020 protests over, George Floyd and Rayshard Brooks and Breonna Taylor, like, I thought Jaylen Brown was such a great voice. So was Kyrie, frankly. And Kyrie has done a lot of great work in his communities, and he's supported Palestinians in the fight against Israel. But
it's painted in a little
100%. It's
like, as supporters of Palestine, it's not helpful for him to be
of course not
in the pro-Palestinian movement.
Not because then that's the point, though, is what I think what frustrates me is, like, then even seeing Jaylen Brown tacitly endorse this, Kyrie kind of full-throatedly endorse this, and all of the mental and rhetorical contortions that have to happen after all this, it completely minimizes, dilutes, and sort of invalidates all of that value, all of that work that they've done, all of that advocacy that in that context was well taken and needed, and it's kind of out the window now because we're not focusing on that, and for good reason.
Yeah,
because this is more prescient. This is more harmful than the good that they did before.
Yeah,
the damage outweighs the benefit.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's just that it shows that you have to have discipline as a thinker and as somebody who is actually critiquing power, where you don't fall into these kind of pitfalls, and they're just too wealthy and have too many yes men around them and it's Kyrie in particular. Let's just use him as an example.
When there are numerous times where multiple players at this point are basically saying, I supported this thing or endorsed this thing or posted about this thing, yet I don't agree with all of it. Just to be clear, if you have to literally go like basically do somersaults to qualify your endorsement or support of something over and over again. It's a problem with the process of how you're approaching these things. Like if you couldn't hear what they were saying, or if you didn't fully understand the nature of that support, find out.
Yeah,
before
well,
you
but
tweet
that's
something.
but the point is that they are from the kind of old conservative talk radio evangelical style of say something publicly in order to get what you want in the end, which is what conservatives did with abortion, lying about taking the right away until it was the moment to strike, right? I mean,
and then kind of like then kind of putting your hands up and being like,
Yeah.
oh no, not that,
not that.
not that.
I mean, reactionaries conceal their true intentions until they feel it's like an opportune moment, right? Because they feel like this has to be done almost in subterfuge. But
yeah, it's just a bummer
yeah,
all around.
all around bummer. Let's have some fun though and
Yeah,
talk
let's
about
do
the
it.
Jets.
Oh,
That's not fun.
That's my cue, guys. See you next week. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Oh, and we should say a little programming note. We are going to try to get out of here early on Wednesday. So right after the show on Wednesday, the Majority Report, I should say, Bradley and I are going to do our picks for the whole Thanksgiving weekend, like 3 o'clock on ESVN. So
I gotta come back somehow.
yeah, we will be really early doing the show for our picks. So just check that out. We'll be on a bit of a different schedule this week. But man, okay, so Zach Wilson, what the
How do you
hell
look? How do you
is?
look, Emma?
I mean,
What'd you think? Were you encouraged?
I was not encouraged. I was not encouraged. He looked so bad that I mean, the thing is that he has physical ability, and I think if I have a blind spot in consuming football, I can be wowed sometimes by physical ability more than others because I just feel like, oh, that's, I have faith in some coaching staffs to mold a certain talent and then you can get the most out of them. But with Zach Wilson, it's like, is he moldable? Because we're getting little trickles of information that he might be a brat. He might be a little twerp. He might be a spoiled asshole.
Yeah, if we can take anything from our call with Gabriel from Salt Lake City last week, his response in the post game presser after leading a offense to 3 points over 4 quarters with negative passing yardage in the second half,
22 for 77 yards in a professional football game in 2022.
While the defense also held the Patriots, for 4 quarters to 3 points, and if not for a punt return touchdown that a justifiably exhausted team would make after having no opportunities essentially to take a break from protecting, I can't express this enough, a 3-3 tie to lose 10-3 while the clock expires in the fourth quarter. And then to go out and kind of take responsibility. I watched the 3 minutes of press availability he had. He sort of was like, I didn't hit open guys.
He was out there for 3 minutes. That's it.
Yep, then he left.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last question he received was, do you take any responsibility for, 3 points from you guys, the Jets, the defense held the Patriots to 3. Take any accountability for kind of like not being able to help them out more? And he says no, and then leaves. That to me, regardless of whatever his teammates say, or whatever his coaching staff says afterwards, is total bullshit. I'm sorry. I know he hasn't started that many games. I know he hasn't been fully healthy. You can't say that.
Yeah.
Because it's not true.
I mean,
it's a lie. It's frankly a lie because he actually did put them in a worse situation. And he played like shit. He played poorly, and it wasn't even as if the Patriots defense, which is very good, I'm not disputing that, was blanketing every receiver. You can look through the all-22, and there are multiple shots he could have taken. One for a touchdown to Denzel Mims that instead He employed the classic Zach Wilson controller
Scrambled to his
drift
left.
and scrambled to his left after taking 25-step drop back, not seeing the open guy because his eyes are all over the place and his feet are all over the place. He had Tyler Conklin wide open that he just sailed the ball that was wobbling in the air to right into Devin McCourty's hands. That's on him. That's not on anybody else. And
It's a
that
miracle that he did not throw a pick given some of those passes, right? Like
that was my issue with the Denver game, is that the reason why I was saying kind of that I almost thought it was as bad as the first Patriots game was because there were numerous throws where just by luck alone they weren't intercepted. And that's my issue, is that it's one thing if you're only making really bad plays and then there are other flashes, but if you are making not only bad plays but also preemptively bad plays, like plays that are basically like no, yes, like it's
and also not
it
seemingly
points to-
taking the coaching on his footwork
Right.
and on his progressions.
and
like,
the eyes. I mean, just literally both simultaneously not seeing the open man, but then also not settling or not having a consistent cadence with them either.
Mm-hmm.
Defenses like a Belichick defense prey on that shit.
yeah. Oh my God.
And it's just like it's one thing to kind of be a placeholder and while the rest of the team does a lot of great things around you, like while the defense is pretty locked down, the running game looks good, and don't get me wrong, this offensive line is in like its 17th iteration since week 1. I understand that, but better young quarterbacks show flashes in these games and show progress in these games, and he's not showing progress.
Well,
If anything, he's looking worse than he did earlier in the season.
Mac Jones is not having a good year, and he's regressed partially due to the fact that his offensive coordinators. I know that they have different roles, but they work together. In Patricia and Joe Judge are not offensive minds. Part of that's the reason for it, but he lost 2 offensive linemen in the middle of that game, Bradley. Isaiah Wynn left in the middle of the game, and David Andrews. And so
David Andrews, the guy I always think is on the Rams, and is actually on the Patriots.
but the point is that he still played fairly fine given the
100%,
that adversity.
absolutely.
And Zach Wilson, so he doesn't on the other side of the ball have that excuse, because I mean, Mac Jones was getting sacked over and over again. I felt like every time I looked back at that game,
he was being sacked.
He was being sacked. I mean,
someone was being sacked.
Someone was, but I think Mac Jones was sacked more. And it wasn't a particularly close game, though. I mean, the Patriots just looked like they dominated the game from start to finish, but Nick Folk kept missing field goals, and
right.
So,
like if he makes 1 or 2, it's.
So the
it's
outcome,
over. Like weren't even able. The Jets were not able to move the ball. They just were not able to move
I
the
would
ball.
not be upset about the outcome, in the sense that if the win wasn't so bad, Nick Folk would have hit those and they would have gone up, and it would have been a 9-3 game as opposed to the kick return from Marcus Jones, which is the first or punt return, I should say.
No, because as
first punt return touchdown of the season in week 11.
No, because as you understand, of course, since 2015, when I was 19 years old, which was the last time that the Jets when the 14-game win streak for the Patriots over the Jets started.
Oh, baby!
There is no bottom to the degree of ways that the Jets can find to uniquely lose to the Patriots in the most embarrassing way imaginable, given the context.
Oh, whoa!
So that's where I'm at.
Yeah,
That's how I'm feeling about this team. And it's just frustrating because, but listen, at the end of the day, like the one thing is like, I understand some people have been saying like on social media and NFL punditry have been kind of been saying like, one, the offensive line is really hurt and in a lot of different iterations. Like I said, it was bad weather. Like he still has a positive record as a starter and he's still very young. Like, I get all of that, but at some point, I think the contribution to the culture of the team, as well as the contribution on the field, have to add up at some point and have to consistently add up. And that hasn't happened in a season and a half.
That part
it's
is
gotta happen at
concerning.
some point.
And that's, I think, the stuff behind the scenes that maybe we don't see, where you can get wowed by his big arm and then you're like, okay, but maybe he's just not committed to winning in the same way that other guys are. Like,
and maybe, frankly, and I hate to put it in these terms because I'm not trying to malign him like personally, but he just might not have the intelligence that it requires to be an NFL quarterback.
yeah.
The routine, what is consistent about the flashes that he has is also consistent in his drawbacks. Every time that he has a bad game like this, and I mean like a precipitously bad game, like the first game against New England, this game against New England, and the Denver game, are these same concerns, are these same desire to drop back too far, to scramble too far to one direction when he does not need to miss open guys both who are either in the red zone, approaching the red zone, or also not being able to really make anything happen outside of sideline to sideline balls, like nothing over the middle.
Almost another the issue with another Wilson who.
Yes, exactly.
Who, I mean, Russell Wilson has a hard time seeing over the middle of the offensive line and throwing balls over the middle.
Exactly, and the thing is, what concerns me is that. Yes, on one hand, it's like you obviously see what needs to be improved, but the degree of what needs to be improved and what you see that needs to be improved, that sustains. That is sustaining. The bad parts are sustaining, and that's really concerning to me.
It is year two.
But I haven't seen him have one game where I thought the entire game comprehensively he played well.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, and it's easy, I guess, to say I've never had an issue in my lifetime with the Giants quarterback not being committed to the franchise.
Must be nice.
I
Emma.
mean, right? Like, Daniel Jones is not going to be a top 10 quarterback ever in his career, but he works hard and his teammates love him for it.
He works hard and he's
smart.
effective.
Yeah.
And he's shown how he can be effective this season. Zach has not shown that.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson has not shown that.
And I mean, I know that Quinnen Williams said something nice about Zach Wilson after the game, but it really doesn't matter to me what they're saying in front of the camera. It really matters to me that there were multiple players who spoke to Connor Hughes of SNY with unnamed sources, multiple, saying that Wilson was, quote, walking around after the game like he isn't the problem. Per Connor Hughes, Wilson's demeanor, quote, rubbed more than a few the wrong way.
Which also makes me, more. That I agree that it's more concerning because I know obviously I know players bemoan the whole unnamed sources, who are you even talking to? It might not even be a real person. What that means is these guys want to talk and not be credited for it. They want to talk shit about Zach Wilson and not have their name attached to it.
Yes.
Good for Quinnen Williams because he's a team guy. By all accounts, he's a mensch, a genuinely good person, nice kid. He's always been perceived that way.
Bless you.
What?
Have you not seen that video of Quinnen Williams
sneezing
and blessing himself?
When he blesses himself.
Yeah.
And he's cute. He had braces when he was coming out of the draft. He's just a cute. I appreciate that he's going out there and being the guy being to perpetuate that there is still a united front, that the frustration hasn't boiled over, because that if Quinnen Williams did not go the other way, went the other way in those remarks, I think it could contribute to a still souring locker room environment furthermore. But it's not great that Connor Hughes, who was, by the way, one of the most sourced guys in that locker room and one of the most sourced, reliable Jets reporters, is hearing that from players who don't want to be those quotes attributed to them. Right.
That is much more indicative than Quinnen Williams, who is going to do, I'm sure, what Saleh said.
Right. He's not going to go out there and shit on Zach in public. He's just not that kind of guy. Whereas Sauce Gardner, Sauce is permanent.
Yeah, Sauce
is out there tweets being this guy's ass.
Oh yeah. That all. See, there you go. Right?
Because let's be real, who's more of a boss on the Jets right now, Sauce Gardner or Zach Wilson? I think it's Sauce.
Oh, we know. God, I love that Quinnen Williams clip so much.
I was thinking about it. It's actually so class. I thought for a second I was like, did I literally? Am I loopy enough after the halfway through this show that I didn't realize that I sneezed on Mike? I was like, did I really do that and not notice?
Bless you, Bradley.
Oh, thank you.
What?
Yeah, it was Gesundheit.
All right. Well, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's important. These are These are games that need to happen for a team who is overperforming but still has a lot of work to do in certain areas. They have to diagnose it. Like they have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think that either comes with Zach making these improvements that he has to make in order to be a franchise quarterback or something close to it, or they're going to have to do a lot of soul searching in the offseason about what the plan is.
Yeah, it is concerning. I mean, the fact that the again, as I said earlier, the Patriots dominated the game from start to finish.
Oh yeah.
They had I know time of possession doesn't matter that much as much as it used to when teams were more run heavy, but Patriots won time of possession by 11 minutes.
Yeah, but because that's and to win ugly and win ugly convincingly, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
You don't really let the other team have the ball that much, and you exhaust the defense by making them have to continue to contain you.
Yeah. So with that, do you think the Jets are making the playoffs now that the Patriots have that double game tiebreaker? I mean, the Patriots are playing the Vikings this week, so on Thanksgiving.
And we will see how the trajectory for the Vikings goes from here after that very dispiriting loss against the Cowboys,
which we will get into.
But it's tough because it would be a different story if it was 1-1 in the season series, so to speak.
Yeah.
It being 2-0 is really tough because if it gets down to it, if there's a game margin, or if theoretically they're tied at week 17, it won't matter.
Yeah.
They will have to have a better record than the Patriots to make the playoffs.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I struggle because it's not as if the strength of schedule. The Jets had a very difficult first half strength of schedule. Their second half is much easier, but they've put themselves behind the 8-ball with not being able to get one out of the 2 Patriots games.
Yeah, agreed. Well, speaking of, let's just get our teams out of the way because I'm like not even going to enjoy talking about this for obvious reasons, but I don't know if the Giants are making the playoffs. Like, yesterday was a really, really tough watch. The Lions, hey, congrats to them. Likeable team. Aiden Hutchinson played really well against the Giants. They're on a 3-game winning streak, but like it was a dominating game from really the second quarter on. The Giants did have a drive after the Lions drove down for a field goal that was pretty convincing, where Daniel Jones rushed in for a touchdown at the end of that drive. But the Lions defense just shut down Saquon Barkley. And with the lack of weapons that the Giants have, with Kenny Golladay still playing like an embarrassment, with Wan'Dale Robinson tearing his ACL on that disgusting field turf that thank God is being changed, but that the Maras and the Johnsons were too cheap to actually change up until this point. With the Giants, for some inexplicable reason, trotting out their best corner, Adoree Jackson, for kick returns, where he sprains his MCL and he'll be out for 4 to 6 weeks when they need to clinch a playoff spot. With Xavier McKinney being out because he broke his hand on a damn ATV on his bye week. Like, the Giants are the most beat up team. And I know maybe some metric will say that they're not the most beat up team in the NFL, but they're the most beat up damn team in the NFL right now. Like, it is unbelievable how little depth they have at receiver. The only guy they have at this point now is Darius Slayton. Everyone else is coming off the practice squad, off waivers. Like, credit to the Giants front office with this new regime that they keep replenishing the roster with guys off the street, but like,
and coaching them up. But that's the thing is, like, there's
such a limit to that. And that was yesterday. Daniel Jones played fine. Like, he threw 2 interceptions. He threw his first interception since like week 3 or week 4. So, but I mean, largely he's been very careful with the football. He needed to push the issue in this game because they were down.
Right.
And his first interception was not good, and it was in Giants territory. The Lions got it, scored a touchdown. But like, this team is a mess in terms of its salary cap. It's a mess in terms of the talent at the skill position, at skill position roles. And I don't know if I'm overreacting, but I'm just feel really bad about this upcoming Cowboys matchup, given what the Cowboys just did to the Vikings.
And honestly, how they're coming on now, like how the offense
Cowboys
is
look
looking
so formidable, and
Yep.
they have more
they
talent.
carved up
so much more talent than the Giants.
They carved up an 8-1 team. They dropped 40 points on an 8-1 team. Like I totally understand your reservations or your trepidation there. But I think what we have to remember with the Giants too is that we credit Brian Dable a lot with his ability to coach up these guys and make the most out of the people he has on this team, given the injury situation, given the lack of investment on both sides of the ball, like financially, given even
bad investments.
Yes, or bad investments, exactly.
Right.
Like in the sense that like you're saying with Galladay, like Sterling Shepard being injured. Relying so heavily on a rookie tight end and Daniel Bellinger and him missing time and being actually representing an offensive cog that is missing. Xavier McKinney missing time. Dane Belton missing time. Having to rely on Dane Belton at safety, like as well as rookies, practice squad guys, free agents off the street, essentially.
I mean, right tackle's out.
Right,
Tyree Phillips got banged up in the middle of that game, right? He was their swing tackle.
Then
we're putting in Matt Parrott again. He sucks. Whatever.
And Adoree Jackson has not been. He's
been playing. He's been playing really well, but he just got injured on the kick return because that is the one really massive coaching. Well, there were two coaching decisions in this game that I did not like from Brian Dable. One is putting Adoree Jackson back there. I'm sorry. Get someone else. Get anybody else. Like, I don't even. Yeah. I know that Richie James shouldn't be out there because he's fumbled and muffed multiple punts, but put him out there over your top corner who has been playing up to his contract this year.
But don't put your top corner in jeopardy potentially, in that type of situation.
I just
when you have another option.
And when we have no depth at that position, right?
That's the thing, though. It's a resource allocation in that way.
Yes.
The drop from Adoree Jackson to the next person if Adoree gets injured is significant. Relative to the already kind of injury ravaged wide receiver room that the Giants already have.
So I mean, go on, Bradley.
Oh no! The only thing I was just gonna say about we've obviously been really championing Dable and his ability to coach up these guys, like knowing the limitations of the roster. But what we also understand with that is the limitations of that coaching ability is that the margin for error is so low.
Yeah.
Because if certain mistakes are being made, or if the talent discrepancy, even against a Lions team that we've been talking about a lot, the defense is not great. The offense has been sputtering. They obviously looked much better. Jamal Williams had a great day on the ground yesterday, but
Okudah went out with a concussion.
So it's not as if it's not to fully excuse that, obviously, because Lions being the Lions, but. It's just one of those things where you see the limits or see the edges of what can be done with this team because of the injuries, the circumstances surrounding the roster, and the lack. This isn't like when the Chiefs have a bad game or the Chiefs have a bad 3 quarters, knowing, we have Patrick Mahomes as an ace in the hole. That he can basically pull a rabbit out of a hat and win a game for us.
The wheels can fall off.
The wheels can fall off, and when they do, it's hard to put them back on.
The Giants are doing a high wire act right now.
Yes, absolutely.
And they're beginning to slip right now. And that's not the fault. I've criticized some coaching decisions. Oh, the other coaching decision was Brian Dable not going for 2 when it was so windy and they were missing kicks all the time. And also they were down by 12. Like, I'm not a math person, but if you go for 2 and you get it, then it's a 10-point game, and that's a lot easier than a 12-point, than a 13-point,
but also
than an 11-point game.
Right, but also, like you said, if it's not as if kicking was even providing a large advantage.
No, it was windy. That was the issue. I mean, that was another reason why it was difficult once they took Saquon Barkley away. Daniel Jones actually, I thought, was throwing it pretty well in terms of it looked nice coming out of his hand in the wind in particular, but it was not a good game. It was incredibly disheartening because of the injuries, and I think that the injury losses are worse than the actual loss to the Lions, who are an up and coming team. I mean, I'm looking at the lines.
No, like good for them, honestly.
Yeah,
you know,
good for them.
Jamal Williams is leading the league in rushing touchdowns. You know,
It's amazing.
which is wild. I really was not expecting
DeAndre
that.
Swift owners are just so
Like,
not
what
owners,
the-
I should say managers.
But
managers.
but Swift, like, you know, people expecting Swift to be the number one back, and,
Yes.
and Jamal Williams comes in as like has like 13 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
Jameson Williams apparently will be practicing this week, so that's exciting. No, it's definitely not a knock to be like, oh, like you said, there are a lot of variables here, and it's one thing to like. We've been talking about the real deficiencies with the Lions, but like you said, like this is a game where if the Lions were going to get right, or at least kind of continue playing a little bit better than they have been the last few weeks, because, you know, they've had a few pretty terrible losses.
Yeah, but now they're on a 3-game
and now they're on a
streak.
3-game winning streak. Like, I guess I just don't feel, and especially not for you because like I'm not a fan of the team, but like, I don't feel like the secondhand embarrassment for the Giants losing this game as much as I do about the Jets-Pats game.
Well,
and obviously I know I'm biased in that regard, but I honestly it just doesn't seem as much of a setback as the Jets game does to me. Because the Giants were really overperforming in a way where I'm like, I feel really great about where the team is in a way where I think it can sustain long-term with better players. The Jets, to me, I'm like, they have the surrounding core that is already good, but the nucleus is not ready.
Yeah, it is. The Jets have more talent than the Giants.
Without I would say significantly so, and that's why I think that like. Yes, losing to the Lions and while they're on like a 3-game win streak after kind of having one of the worst
Lions
defenses
might have
in the
more
league.
talent than the Giants.
Yeah, I think it's debatable. Maybe not on the defense. Maybe actually even on the defensive side at this point, given the injuries. But
yeah,
I know it's like I know like we've kind of like pilloried the Lions defense in the past and stuff.
They're
like
playing
you said,
a lot better.
3-game win streak. Jameson Williams will practice. Jamal Williams has been playing really well. Maybe they found something a little bit more defensively. I just think it's not as much as I think the Cowboys game might be difficult just because of how well the Cowboys played. Like, I still feel like the Giants are in a place that they can build on this season, even regardless of what happens the next 8 weeks or so.
I'm now just having so much anxiety about that game because it's going to be on national TV, and
right.
Nope, and the casual fan isn't going to know how many injuries the Giants have, and say Daniel Jones fumbles, it's going to be the end of the world in the narrative. So great, can't wait. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm going to be so drunk.
I, for one, personally have never experienced a bad Thanksgiving game involving the Jets.
There you go. Silver lining.
Do you remember what happened on Thanksgiving?
No.
You don't remember what happened on Thanksgiving?
Was it the butt fumble?
It sure was.
That was on Thanksgiving. Yeah. Wow, I totally forgot.
It will live in my. It will be burned in my memory for as long as I live.
Oh my god, that was the butt fumble game. That's amazing. All right, let's read some IMs really quickly. Spencer Nelson, Bills defense has been horribly beaten up this year. Multiple rookies starting. Trey White hasn't played yet this year. Micah Hyde out for the rest of the year, and Jordan Poyer missing multiple games. They're very beat up. I don't think that they are as beat up as the Giants. Like, the Giants lost now 3 rookies to an ACL tear. They lost Sterling Shepard to an ACL tear. Those are all, those are very, very fair injuries, I understand, but they also just have more depth. The Bills do. The Bills are a very deep team, and the standards.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The depth is important. Obviously, I've been saying this before that Poyer and Hyde are like the beating heart of that defense. And like Hyde being out for the season in particular is really rough for them. But even like when they played the Jets, and lost that game, they gave up 20 points. It wasn't a beatdown. Like they still are playing respectable defense.
Yeah.
It's just that they are missing the 2 guys that really sew that team together. Like, they are kind of the seams to the back end of the Bills defense. So I see where they're coming from.
Kowalski from Nebraska. Say what you will about the United States, but I'm fairly certain that the university systems in either Texas or California could host the World Cup and Olympics without having to really build much infrastructure prior. And I'm almost certain that the infrastructure could be used post-event. Yes.
It's not a bad point. The traffic would probably just be truly truly apocalyptic.
That's where the World Cup is next. So
right. Because
yeah.
it's the U.S.
in LA.
But the city's decided. I forgot whether the city was decided yet.
Yeah, the Northeast USA could probably also host these events without needing much infrastructure and have a much better climate for it. A joint venture between the United States and Canada around the Great Lakes could also host these for the same reasons. Basically, I want the Olympics and the World Cup in Michigan.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Shot put in Comerica Park.
Yeah.
Just see some steeplechase in a Ford Field.
Yeah,
I
mean,
mean, I love it.
All
be
for
absolutely
that.
Great.
All for that. All right, let's talk about a few more games here. Well, let's just talk about the Chiefs-Chargers game really quickly. Despite it being the most exciting game of the year, I don't think we learned too much more.
Chargers played better. Chargers played a good game. Herbert played well.
Their whole team is designed to beat the Chiefs. And
it is true.
They can't beat the Chiefs.
And they still can't beat the Chiefs. It's not even like this team is fully healthy or like fully at complete strength, like on either end of the ball, and they still can do it.
Juju.
No Juju.
No Nicole Hardman.
Yep, no
Kadarius
Hardman.
Toney, shocker, hamstring injury in the middle of the game. What the was their plan for Travis Kelce? Like I was told going into the game, and Derwin James is going to be able to run with Kelce. He's going to be able to manage him. And I saw
he was burning James one-on-one. And like you said, the kind of point of Derwin James in that for his position in that defense is to kind of be the tight end, like a guy who kind of sucks up the tight end or like neutralizes the tight end. And Kelce just glid past him for 3 touchdowns.
I mean,
like it wasn't one big possession, one big game breaking yak opportunity or something like that. He was just knifing him and knifing the Chargers secondary the whole game.
It was painful to watch. I mean, as somebody also in one league facing Travis Kelce, like, but it just. I was shocked because their whole defense is supposed to be able to. If we can't beat the Chiefs, we can't win the Super Bowl. If we can't beat the Chiefs, we can't win the Super Bowl. We have to get them out. We have to get out of the division. And there has been some success with limiting Kelce and some of his damage in the past with Derwin James. But like they were getting him open in really creative ways too. At the same time, I am still not taking Brandon Staley off my shit list. You are a defensive head coach. They do not have their top 2 wide receiver. I mean, MVS was playing, but one of their top 2 of their 3 top receivers in the game, and Juju has been their best receiver this year. Figure out a way to double Kelce, have some guy on him, some sort of like hybrid spy type player, and let's go. But this was... it's like they hung Derwin James out to dry and also did not game plan.
But it's also not as if like, it's not as if like Nasir Adderley could do anything either. He was getting torched by Kelce also.
Yeah.
Like there was no, they were doing some, I think, decoy stuff too a little bit where I feel like, which is like, obviously a Chiefs strength, which is like kind of make it seem like a certain route is the hot route, is like where Mahomes is going to go immediately, but then just something develops behind in the other way. Like where, so Kelce, I think either the first touchdown or the second touchdown, I mean, he was just wide open.
Yeah, just wide open.
And he goose stepped into the end zone. He
I mean, and then
he
you
canned into the end zone. It's like it's embarrassing. Like like you said, Brandon Staley was the defensive coordinator of the Rams. Like if anything, this is not supposed to happen.
Right.
Like, if anything,
it's not. This is supposed to be this is your beat, dude. I mean, let's find some creative ways to set your defense up. I'm just growing more and more convinced that the Chargers aren't going anywhere with this guy as the head coach, even though, I mean, I don't think their talent is as overwhelming as has been previously advertised, especially at the receiver position. And then, of course, Mike Williams plays once, like a few snaps, catches a ball, comes up limping, leaves the game. Keenan Allen being back was good for Justin Herbert, but it was a little bit of the same kind of deal after that first great drive where he had that explosive touchdown to Josh Palmer, Mr. Canada there. And it's like they game plan to get that for that drive and then kind of drop the ball for the rest of the game. Like they just did not have more tricks up their sleeve in that way. So I don't think we learned much new except for the fact that Mahomes is probably the MVP. I still think you can make a case for Justin Jefferson, but after last game, in terms of consistency, it's hard to not make Patrick Mahomes the MVP once again.
Just because I think with Mahomes now, it's like you're seeing the ways that he can win, and it's basically endless.
Mm-hmm.
Like the ways he can contribute to an offense's success with whatever pieces are around him. He was throwing balls to a few guys. I didn't know who they were.
Oh yeah,
Fortson. Fortson,
Kalen Fortson.
Yeah. And there's another guy, Watson, I think, and like a Watson.
Christian Watson.
Justin Watson,
no,
because Christian Watson's the Packers guy.
Yeah, no.
And I was just like, oh, okay, now they're
random
just
white guy. Yeah.
Now they're just impact players on this Chiefs offense. I guess it just simply doesn't matter who's in that uniform, and he can get them going in a way that's helpful to the team. And
that's the magic of Andy Reid too.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's just the perfect combination of just such a dynamic and exciting and youthful. And I say youthful with Andy Reid in the sense, obviously he's been around for so long, but his offenses are like. Certain guys, I'm Mike Tomlin. Certain guys' offenses they stagnate at some point. They stop growing. They stop evolving. They stop adapting to their personnel. With Andy Reid, that never happens. I mean, obviously he has like the muse of all muses for an Andy Reid offense in Mahomes, but you see just the peaks of their creations together, and it's like beautiful to watch.
Oh yeah,
and I will say, we've said this before too. I mean, we were saying this last week. I feel like when we were sort of talking about, the MVP award or just kind of like the highlight players of the year, Mahomes potentially being MVP and Tyreek Hill also kind of making a offensive player of the year case as well. He being in the conversation given how well he's been playing. Seemingly, just so far, one of the rare trades where there was kind of a bet on both sides to make, and it seems to be working so far.
Oh yeah,
in a way that I was really not expecting. Like the Chiefs making this move was kind of a acknowledgement that they obviously need to keep the finances and the scheme and like the roster construction Mahomes centric, not Hill centric, meaning that. Even if there's a big loss with Tyreek's production, there's a confidence in Mahomes being able to make up a fraction of that. And it's clear he's been able to do so and then some. And then on the other end of it, Tyreek has essentially revitalized this Dolphins team.
Yeah.
And made everyone around him look better than they did before. I mean, obviously, of course, Mike McDaniel is a huge part of that as well. But, this guy's going to potentially almost get near 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
At the end of this season, if he keeps going the way he's going, so like it's really kind of impressive to see an NFL trade where you're not like either A, this team is getting fleeced, or B, this is going to look really bad when the chickens come home to roost in terms of the years or the need to re-up or things like that. I mean, we'll see obviously how it goes, but I'm surprised at the immediate return that both teams are seeing by making this move.
And it's shocking when you see a trade where there's two losers in Devontae Adams.
100%. And then you look at the other. Then you look
Packers,
at the other. Where it's kind of the opposite end, where it's like Rodgers actually probably pretty clearly needed Devontae to stay.
Yes, he needed it, and
the Raiders were not one Devontae.
And the Raiders did not need Devontae Adams.
Right.
I mean, they overperformed when they went to the playoffs the year before, and that they kind of pulled a bunch of rabbits out of their ass in the regular season, and they got to the playoffs after they'd fired Gruden, came together under Rich Bisaccia, lost in the first round of the playoffs. Fine year, something to give your players confidence, but then
a massive, just calamitous train wreck.
Yeah, huge culture change.
Like, what the fuck?
Josh McDaniels comes in, wants to do things his way, more Patriots militaristically, and things fall apart. But with these rumors about Derek Carr maybe not being their quarterback after this year and maybe them moving on, then why did you trade for Devontae Adams.
It's interesting because like they think the inversion from the Mahomes Hill thing is like I was saying, like clearly like Rodgers, given how the Packers have looked, needed Adams, but then clearly the Raiders didn't necessarily. It's not that the Raiders didn't need Devontae Adams. It's just that's not all they needed.
No,
very clearly. Like I think they sort of thought this is our key to being competitive in our division, and maybe further than that.
But how is that possible given their roster?
They
have one guy on
not.
defense, one guy named Max Crosby.
Right.
And he's not even that good. Like,
and I think there was I think he's
fine.
But like I think we've said this about specifically. I think with Crosby is that one good to great pass rusher does not a defense make.
He'd be a great number 2 pass rusher on
like
an elite
contending team,
defense,
on like a good team,
right?
Like
yes.
And the Raiders, I just think, completely misunderstood or overestimated their ability in this of Adams' move, thinking they were a piece away when they were clearly not.
Then, but that is not what good general managers do, though. They have a good assessment of their roster, and especially if you were considering moving on from Derek Carr next year, then you do not make this move. You have the draft capital, you maintain that. Now they did end up winning this game, but they're in a rebuilding type season with a top paid wide receiver who is not going to get any younger on their team, considering moving on from the quarterback who was the whole reason that he wanted to go there in the first place, because they're buddies.
And look at the draft history. I mean, credit where credit is due. Caleb McGarry is definitely playing better than he has been excuse me, not Caleb McGarry. Colton Miller has been playing very much better than he has in the past. But look at some of these some of these things not fully in their control, but Henry Ruggs will clearly never play for the Raiders ever again.
I know it's their old regime, though. But
right.
My point
Alex
is
Leatherwood, though, they
right.
cut Jonathan Abram, and I understand that some of these picks are previous regimes, but at the same time, if there's no ability, if there's no retention ability, and also if these guys have not entrenched themselves in the past regime to still be impact players while they're still on the team, like, I don't think it's necessarily just justifiable that these guys are busts because they came from the other regime. They're they're just not very good players.
Yeah.
Not helping them win.
Well, and that's the thing is if you make an assessment of your roster and you go, we're going to rebuild from, in my vision of what the roster is going to be, GM of the Raiders comes from the New England tree. That's why they got Josh McDaniels.
Right.
Fine. Then you don't make a trade and trade away assets for a receiver. You just don't. It's terrible team building. And so, let alone the fact that the Packers basically just insulted Devontae Adams and should have extended him from the get-go. And they pretend all the time like they're in the market for receivers and that they're going to pay receivers, and they never do it. So I don't take
clearly, right? Like in a sense,
we're definitely wanted to trade for Chase Claypool. Just kidding. Like they never actually pull the trigger. They just do a PR campaign after the case.
And if we know, if from what we've been led to believe, and not like just fully led to believe, this is also based on Adams' play. I mean, him and Rodgers essentially had like a telepathic connection almost.
Yeah.
There were not that many better quarterback receiver connections in the league than Adams and Rodgers. To leave Rodgers, 39-year-old Rodgers, with Alan Lazard as and Randall Cobb and then 2 rookies as your wide receiving core is talk about team building. It's freaking malpractice.
They cut Amari Rodgers too.
They cut and then also talk about other also like just shedding resources. Like did that guy couldn't hack it in this system? That guy
third overall pick in 2020 third round pick, 85th overall in 2021 draft.
So a year goes by and he can't find a place on this team. Is that because he's bad, or is it because they don't really know how to use the personnel that they have?
Yeah.
We'll see. Obviously, if he gets picked up
insane.
or if he plays better anywhere else, but. It just is so interesting to look at those two trades side by side and see who wanted what when and how that and why and how that all turned out.
Unreal.
For everybody involved.
It's almost poetic in terms
it's crazy. It's like parallels in a weird way.
And the reason that the Hill trade was so good for them too is that they knew that their roster was on the cusp and on the ascension. Yep. And this is how we set up Tua for success. And this is the perfect fit with Mike McDaniel.
And they were right.
What the hell is this fit with Devontae Adams in this team.
It was
he's getting a lot of good numbers. He's a good fantasy player. And he won this game on a broken coverage play, right?
Yep.
And the Broncos, will get into them in a second. But it just does not make sense for the future.
It really just seems like, and I could be wrong about this. I'm just saying, it just really seems like, for the way sometimes the Raiders, and I say this across regimes in the sense of because the consistent factor beyond any of the coaching shifting and the general manager shifting is Mark Davis, and I think Mark Davis makes decisions based on gut and not much else.
And also shortage of cash. What's going to be cheap for me?
Exactly. And I think there was a lot of stake put into the idea that this Fresno State connection would revive between Carr and Adams, even though they literally played in college together like
and they have a
7 years
connection.
ago.
There's no doubt. I mean, he's there, but it's not translating to wins. I mean,
it's not translating to wins, and it's also
great
not
for fantasy football. Okay, great.
You really see in moments like this where it's very clear. It's like, oh, like these guys weren't making this decision to be like, we're going to be a good team next year. It's going to be like, these two players are going to be really good. That does not always, and it actually rarely does, translate into, we have these two really good guys that will probably be good together. We're going to have a really good team. There's so much more that goes into it. And clearly they just did not have that foresight.
Let's turn to the team that actually lost this game. The Broncos lost in overtime to the Raiders.
Second time, 0-2 against the Raiders.
Yeah, 0-2 against one of the worst teams in the NFL. Let's ride giving the Seahawks a top 5 overall draft pick. Hell
Let's ride.
I mean, this is
That's dangerous.
That is a dangerous proposition, right? Tasting dangerous here. My reputation is in danger, Russ.
My career is in danger, Russ.
Yeah. Well, so the Broncos went up early, and this is arguably the best game that Russell Wilson has played. But it's kind of a theme with them where it seems like Hackett is able to game plan a opening drive or a first half kind of game for them where Russell Wilson doesn't look terrible, and then once the bag of tricks is emptied, they fall apart. And they only, like, we're saying that this is Russell Wilson's best game of the year, and they put up 16 points.
Yeah, but that's that.
And they cut Melvin Gordon after this.
It is a really interesting point because you are right. I was watching some clips. Matt Waldman is a great NFL follow. If you guys don't follow him, he does a lot of good film breakdowns. I was watching some of the clips from Broncos' first drive, and like good read from Russ to get the ball to Greg Dulcich in like a short yardage play, hit Sutton for a big gain. And then I'm pretty sure like you said, it ended with a touchdown, right? He threw a touchdown at the end of it.
Yeah, I believe so.
And on the first drive, and then after that, just like at the very most 9 points for the team afterwards, and also a loss again to the Raiders, who are, for all intents and purposes, completely imploding.
Yeah,
it's just like very, very hard to see what the long-term prospects are for this team.
I mean, let's pull up Russell Wilson's contract very quickly and see what actually is possible. I'm on Sport Track right now. So he's making $57 million in cash this year. If he were to get cut next year, the dead cap would be $107 million. If he were to be cut in 2024, it would be an $85 million dead cap hit. In 2025, it would be a $49 million dead cap hit. In 2026, a $31.2 million dead cap hit, $12 million in 27, $4.4 million in 2028. Meaning, they have to be stuck with him at least for the year after this, 2023, and the year after that in 24. Maybe they can cut him in 2025 and spread out that dead cap of nearly $50 million over a longer period of time. But the problem with the Broncos is that they did the deal without him ever playing a regular season snap for this team. They have boxed themselves into this situation. And the Seahawks are going to own those picks. Like, I know I'm just stating plainly what the reality of this is, but the reality is a horror show if you're a Broncos fan. It's a horror show.
Listen, everyone. Now is the time. Support your local Walmart. The Waltons are suffering.
Yes.
And they need your help.
Yeah.
Save the Broncos. And bail out the Waltons. And give them
It's a good point.
And
It's
give
a
them
good point.
$107 million.
But in a cap situation, right? Like, there's only so much that they can do with this dead cap being on their books.
They're screwed.
They're
They are screwed.
As much as
they bought this team and then immediately got screwed.
If the Waltons were able to after maybe 2 years pay out the rest of his contract without it affecting the salary cap, they would. They would.
Oh,
they have
absolutely.
the money. It's multiple people. Like, just go for it.
Absolutely.
They totally would, and then have the team rebuild from there. But they can't do that in the NFL. And I have mixed feelings about the salary cap because I do think that I want players to get paid a lot more. And also, I do think it's a cop-out for owners when they could pay their players a lot more. And it allows for lazy owners like Mike Brown or owners that are bad with their finances like Mark Davis to not manage their teams correctly and not do the right things by their players in some instances. But there is a drama that this creates because this is a situation that the Broncos just cannot get out of. They just can't. Man.
Now, the only thing they can get out of, which I still think they're going to do, is they're just going to let poor Nathaniel Hackett be the scapegoat and fall on his sword, even though it's pretty clear that it's not entirely his fault that this team is performing so poorly.
Yeah. I mean, and
he's not a good coach, but that's not the only problem.
No,
the problem is much more pertinent and frankly much more cost prohibitive.
And now we know what we know about his Russell Wilson refusing in the first parts of the season to wear a wristband like he did in Seattle, which caused a lot of delay of game penalties because Russ was trying to remember the play calls off the top of his head as opposed to having a shorthand on his wrist because he was too proud to wear one. That the early delay of game penalty or that clock mismanagement makes a little bit more sense, and it's a little bit less on Nathaniel Hackett maybe. Not saying that he has elevated this team to where it could be, especially because the defense continues to play lights out. But I just don't know if we even know what he can be as a head coach given the situation.
We were discussing this, I think, last week or the week before, which is as you've been saying, is like I don't think it can only be attributed to the fact that Hackett has clock management issues. Those clock management issues don't lead, guys like Garrett Bowles and Dalton Risner and other guys on that, or Lloyd Cushenberry on that line to receive those holding or false start penalties or delay of game penalties. The guy who's calling out to get the ball spiked or spiked, get the ball snapped.
Yeah.
Is Russ.
Yeah.
And if they aren't in sync yet, it's week 11.
I know.
We're more than halfway through the season. If they can't get a proper snap count off, if they are not accustomed or comfortable with the way Russ's play cadence comes out, I can't blame Hackett for that.
Yeah, I mean, I
he's
can't
not
either.
yelling at the guys to snap the ball. Russ is.
And it's just like, if you're Melvin Gordon, I know he's been Mr. Butterfingers and he hasn't played very well, but or if you're someone on that team that sees your friend Melvin get cut, and then Russell Wilson's walking around there, multi-$100 million man, basically ruining this team single-handedly, the vibes in that locker room must be rancid. Rancid. Everyone else is going to bear the brunt for this guy.
Right, because frankly, they can and he can't. Just from a pure zeros and ones standpoint, this franchise economically simply cannot withstand the financial burden of parting with the guy who is the biggest problem for them.
Yeah, can you imagine if they just benched him though?
I mean,
what would that look like? I don't know if they can.
but that's the other thing though, is I don't think so. I don't know how they could do that.
This guy's so fragile, and his ego is so fragile that if you do that, it's just going to be it's going to
Worse
just
than
make
not.
things worse because he's going to spiral. I don't know. It's an amazing, what a joke. This era of Russell Wilson in Denver has been.
And it's hard though, because from what you're saying, like it's one thing for like Jim Irsay to do that to Matt Ryan, for example, when the Colts weren't expected to be that good. We're expected to make some noise in their division, but did not have nearly the expectations that this Broncos team did in one of the better divisions in football, or what was supposed to be, one of the better divisions in football. But you wonder with a new coach, new quarterback, high profile new ownership group, what the optics would be and how that could be withstood if they were like, we got a bench for us.
Yeah.
And if his backup, who I think is Brett Ripien, who's a total rando, if they started playing better.
Oh my God.
I mean,
Ripien already played this year when
right.
Russ had his hamstring. But it didn't look much better. But at the same time, it shouldn't look comparable.
No.
It should not.
It should not be like even or like 53-47 or whatever, between the two in terms of effectiveness.
All right, let's turn to the final game that I feel like focusing on today, which is the Cowboys Vikings. Yeah. Well, we saw who's a way more talented team. And the Vikings are a really fun story this year. And one loss does not make a team in the sense that, hey, the Titans are playing really great football and their defense is coming together a lot. And they lost in incredibly embarrassing fashion in week 1 to the Bills. But at the same time, it looked like there was a clear talent differential on the field between the Vikings and the Cowboys, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, the Patrick Peterson, it's a nice story. There's some good veterans on the Vikings defense, but they couldn't stop shit. It was an embarrassing performance by that defense.
Dak was basically just kind of like dicing them up and like scissoring them, basically.
They didn't
knifing
punt
through everything
for a really long period of the game. And Kirk Cousins was strip sacked on his first dropback by Micah Parsons, who was all over the field once again. I mean, the Cowboys, it doesn't translate in my lifetime to championships, but when was the last Cowboys Super Bowl?
Must have been the mid-90s.
Yeah, I mean, I was born in 94, so maybe that's
1995.
Oh, 96. So in my life, they won in 93, 94, 96 against the Steelers in 96, and against the Bills twice. I mean, they were two of those teams. The Giants was one of them as well.
I think this goes to show that, when they were banged up, and obviously it was a big challenge in the beginning of the season when, Dak going down, Dak also not looking particularly impressive before going down. I think there was a lot of real concern and understandable concern with what was going to befall the Cowboys this year after that start to the season. But we're seeing what like the peak form of this offense can be when like Dak is firing on all cylinders and just making throws and making plays just surgically with no mistakes and just like kind of being a few steps ahead of all the other pieces on the field, with all the blocking looking sound, all of the plays looking sound. Kellen Moore calling a pretty like near perfect game, I would say, in terms of offensive play calling to get 40 points while having a stifling defense led by who we probably still think is going to be the defensive player of the year in Micah Parsons, combined with the right dosage of Tony Pollard being the explosive running back that should be the one taking the majority of carries as opposed to Zeke.
Yes.
And the run game looked fantastic with Dak.
Tony Pollard is a top 5 running back in the NFL right now. Is there Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry?
No, I agree. So I would
Barkley,
say Saquon Henry, Nick Chubb.
Kamara.
Not in this order. I'm just saying Saquon Henry, Nick Chubb, Pollard,
Kamara, or Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
So whatever, it's arguable. Arguable. I mean,
but I would say Pollard. Chubb, Henry, or not
on the field. And what I was just saying, earlier about like when they don't win championships this way. They do. The Cowboys have stars in the sense that they always do have, even when they're bad teams. They have just
guys
bright
who jump
spot
off
players.
the page.
Guys, it doesn't always come together, but this team is really scary,
and they're coming into their own now.
Yes.
Their star didn't shine bright too early. This is kind of like a really ideal spot for them for everything to start syncing up and connecting, for the defense to be playing this well and this consistently, now combined with a healthy Dak who's playing really well and playing,
and the offensive line's
football.
playing a little bit better.
The line is improving, as we can see by how effective Pollard's been, by having the run blocking just being exactly what he needs to kind of gash these defenses. I was just very impressed, because it's one thing to beat the Vikings, beat a team that's really been performing very, very well, and who we've seen honestly gut out some tough wins. And it's not as if every win has been an easy one. They've basically, their margin for error has also been pretty small. I think if I'm not mistaken, they may have some point differential of like -1 or -2. Like, they've been locked in close game after close game after close game and won. And I mean, some people would say, of course, there's a bit of luck involved with that, and there's like some regression is probably in order, but they've also stuck in those games.
Yeah.
For the Cowboys to beat them by.
Oh, and we left out McCaffrey.
Oh yes.
God.
Oh
right.
yes, of course. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Sorry. So Pollard's in the top 10.
To beat them by over 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Is a really, really resounding signature victory for the Cowboys this season.
Yeah, it is. And they can be streaky, but they have a very specific team build, which is that they're flashy and they're fast on defense. That's the thing about them, is they have closing speed. Yes, and ability to just kind of break on the ball and make these plays. And that's going to be harder for them when, say, they face a team that has a lot of size. Like, I don't know if they play the Titans this year. They do play the Titans this year, because they play the NFC East plays the AFC South. Like, that's going to be a problem for them, I think, because the Titans are so big. They're Titans, but they're
literal and figurative Titans.
Yeah, but I like that. I think going to be an interesting matchup whenever that happens. Did they play them already? I'm just trying to make sure.
Did the Cowboys play the Titans?
No, they play them on the 29th of December, so second to last game.
Oh, okay, got it.
But just
that'll
a game
be an
like
interesting
that
matchup.
will be really interesting. Even the Eagles, they lost to the Eagles earlier in the year when they didn't have Dak Prescott, but the Eagles do have some size, and the Giants' defensive line will be the one thing that creates some problems for them, because they have size as well.
It will be interesting to see kind of like Pollard fit up against like Jordan Davis. Or
Davis has been out, and that's I think what has been part of the issue with the Eagles. But Dexter Lawrence.
I was just gonna say exactly.
We'll see that on Thursday.
How these guys how the Cowboys line and Pollard can match up against like a fitting up, run stuffing tackle like a guy like Lawrence or a guy like Davis.
And it's just crazy too, because as much as I hate Mike McCarthy, he's been managing this team the right way this year. We'll see when it gets to a single elimination setting.
That's all the anvil-sized caveat. Hey, actually, Mike McCarthy's been looking pretty good. He's like, oh, the too many warnings coming up. I think I should throw my challenge flag and call it time.
Yeah, right. I mean, he had that moment against the Packers. He was like, oh, I'm in the place where I've done this so many times before.
It's like, what do... Oh, it's like when...
Time to, instead of kick a field goal, go for it on 4th and 3 in overtime.
Do you remember that episode of SpongeBob when he is like being a fine dining waiter, and Squidward tells him like the only thing you can need to remember is your name and fine dining. So he actually like removes all of his other memories and thoughts.
I don't
And he's
remember
like
that.
I don't know anything but fine dining. It's like Mike McCarthy's like I don't know anything but calling a timeout at the worst possible moment. I can't do it. I don't know anything else.
Yeah, well, I think that the Cowboys are going to beat the Giants by a touchdown. That's my anticipation, and I will cry into my turkey.
Mm-hmm.
That will be
And
that.
wine, hopefully.
Oh, certainly.
Gobble
How
it.
early can I start? Well, when it's being socially without it being socially unacceptable.
1 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah, I guess. 1 o'clock wine. I mean, I don't even go that far. I'll have a beer at 1 o'clock, but 1 o'clock wine, I'd be screwed.
It's a cry for help.
Oh my god. Anyway, all right, guys, we're gonna take a quick break. Then we'll take some calls from you. Read some IMs. The number is 646-257-3920. Take a quick break. Be right back. We are back. We are back. I'm going to read some IMs. Take your calls. 646-257-3920 if you'd like to call in. And if we have any Bears fans call in, I'm so sorry about Justin Fields' shoulder. At least it's not his throwing shoulder.
Okay, so non-throwing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
It was his
that's
left
good.
shoulder.
He had just another freaking unbelievable touchdown run
Yeah.
against the Falcons.
He's
It's becoming a
freaky
weekly
athlete.
thing.
Yes.
Did they? And the Falcons won, right?
Yeah, they won.
Yes.
That's the thing. The Bears keep losing.
It's the have Justin Fields play great and lose games challenge. The
I
Bears are
know.
up for the task.
They are. They are winning at that game. Calling from a 681 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello, Emma and Bradley. This is Steven from West Virginia.
Steven from West Virginia. How are you?
Hello, Steven.
Hey, not too bad. A couple of weeks ago, the conversation came up about my favorite sports movies,
Mm-hmm.
and Rocky, I, Tonya, and Remember the Titans. If anybody is audacious enough to be asking right now,
Ooh,
but
I, Tonya is a great
interesting.
one.
That is a good.
As of
yeah.
in terms of recent sports movies.
and kind of like an out there one too, in the sense of like you're not usually thinking of like
Yeah.
figure skating, but I like that movie a lot too. Allison Janney was awesome in that
Yeah.
movie. My girl.
I mean, let me think about two off the
Fantastic.
top of my head. Okay, here are also these are probably my favorite three. Friday Night Lights, the movie.
Mm.
Not the show, which I haven't seen, but I hear there are a lot of like dreamy guys in it. That's what my friends say. I'm like, my friends that watch this, I'm like, you don't like football, but they just like the drama of it. So, but I love that movie. And Bend It Like Beckham, maybe. That was a pretty formative movie for me growing up.
Same, me too.
And Miracle. If someone was to ask
Miracle.
me, like, what's your favorite sports movie? And I think, the ones I just listed are sports focused, but less like Miracle is a sports movie.
Yeah, it's like a
Probably Miracle. I love hockey and yeah.
Well, that's actually kind of interesting because that's one of the reasons. I mean, the reason I called in is actually because I want to get your take on maybe a different angle of movies that
Sure.
maybe on their face don't seem like sports movies or like sneaky sports movies or
Well, like Jerry
incidental
Maguire.
sports.
Because if that counts, then that's definitely up there for me. Because that's about sports agency. Agents.
Yeah, well, yeah, that feels a little on its face, but no, I mean I feel that could maybe the prime example for me is A Knight's Tale, and we could talk about it. But honorable mentions to like Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, like half of Star Wars Episode 1.
I
That's
see.
then, like,
I
like-
see. You're saying that the Triwizard
one-
Tournament is a sporting event.
Yeah, totally, and
As is Quidditch,
and then
even though the scoring system makes no sense,
It really
because
doesn't,
why
yeah.
doesn't everybody just focus on catching the snitch, and then the game would be over, and you'd have all the points?
It would be
yeah,
too clogged.
I mean,
The lanes would be too
certainly
clogged.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bradley. What'd you say?
No, I was just saying, if everyone was going after the snitch, it would just be like a pileup. Like there would be no.
You can tell that J.K. Rowling doesn't
Well-
like sports.
Well, I would.
Well, again, like that, like the things that maybe kind of come out of nowhere, perhaps like one really like odd scene in American History X,
Mhm.
but like A Knight's Tale, like it genuinely it has everything, like showing the life of a pro jouster. You got the rival, you got a love interest, you got team building scenes, you even got all the way down to corporate sponsorship and a training montage. And it starts out with Queen's "We Will Rock You," like right at the beginning. Like this is a sports movie through and through, and it's one of my favorite examples of just it sneaks up on you because on its face it doesn't seem like it is, and I just think that's
Well, I
such a
mean,
wonderful.
I haven't seen it yet.
No, I love
I've
the
heard
idea.
really good things about about A Knight's Tale. I think you're stretching the definition a little bit, my friend. Like
Oh,
a little
you
bit.
think so?
Yeah.
Okay, then I think you need to watch A Knight's Tale because
you
like
should-
this
you should
is
watch it.
absolutely.
I mean,
It's
if you're
great.
including
It's
Harry
great.
Potter in it, I mean, we're stretching it a little bit, right? But
Well, one Harry Potter movie, yeah.
okay, I understand. So the Quidditch matches don't count, but the Triwizard Tournament does.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that makes sense.
The,
Bradley, what are your
So,
three favorites?
My three.
yeah. Good.
It's a great question. I love The Sandlot.
Mm,
The Sandlot is like one of my favorite movies
Yeah.
of all time. This is a
Happy
fun-
Gilmore.
This is a funny one. Sydney White with Amanda Bynes,
Oh,
the soccer movie.
no, that's the you're confusing.
Oh, sorry,
Amanda
not Sydney
Bynes.
White. Oh,
That's,
sorry. Excuse me. Same time, but She's the Man.
She's the
with
Man.
Amanda Bynes,
Yeah.
not Sydney White.
Okay.
Sydney White's also a great movie, but She's the Man is the one I'm thinking.
Sydney
of.
White is the Snow White one.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, yes.
And then, oh geez, what was it? Oh, and honestly, again, like not the best pick in the world, but like just in terms of like my sensibilities, the Longest Yard remake
Oh, yeah.
with Adam Sandler, and
Yeah.
Burt Reynolds, and
Fun.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Absolute classic movie.
Moneyball's good too.
Yeah.
Moneyball is also great. I would actually include. I would definitely include Moneyball on there. Just all great performances from Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill. and
Yeah.
the very realistic looking scouts.
Yes, agreed.
Yes, I got to tell you, Bradley, I kind of, and this is just going to be my bias, but I appreciated the remake of Longest Yard.
yeah.
I
more
like
than
it
the
too,
original.
just because you grow up with that kind of stuff. I mean,
And Nellie's in it.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a star running back.
He's
so,
he's a demon. He just shoots through he shoots through the gap like nobody's business.
The
prison wardens had nothing
like
for
he
him.
hate. Exactly, he hate me moves without any shoes on. Like, come on,
Exactly.
please. That's impressive.
Exactly.
That's impressive.
It is.
Okay, well, anyway.
And what a cast. All right, appreciate it.
Thanks, Steven.
Thank you, y'all. Give me like a reason to go to my friends and say, let's make some more videos. Check out Appalachian Faction on YouTube, Appafaction, if you don't want to spell it all out. Thank you.
Yes.
all.
Oh yes, of course.
Yes.
We'll put it in the show notes for sure.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Steven. Dan from Columbus says, Emma, how have you not seen Knight's Tale? I know.
It's really good.
It was like in my whole movie groove is thrown off by COVID. I used to go to 2 movies a month in theaters. Pretty much.
This one's kind of, it's kind of an oldie. You could find it.
No, A Knight's Tale. A Knight's Tale.
With Heath Ledger?
Oh my god, I totally confused it with The Green Knight.
Oh yeah, no.
Okay.
Green Knight is.
I know what you're talking
Green
about.
Knight is
now.
quite different.
Yes. I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, no, Knight's Tale with like Heath Ledger. And like
Okay,
that.
yes,
Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah, I've seen parts of that. It's fine. It's fine.
It's a good
fine,
movie.
Steven. It's okay.
You should watch.
Yeah.
Watch the whole thing. But yeah, Green Knight is like, I think like more like.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking of. Definitely Fundamental said, Emma, you're the best at callbacks. The best. The Quentin Williams video is so deep in my head. OMG.
Bless you.
Yeah. Bless you. Thank you. And he says it in his like southern drawl too. It really is. We should put that on the soundboard, honestly.
We should. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Greg Bedard in YouTube chat, my nemesis, said "Cool Runnings," which is also a great suggestion. One of my faves of all time as well.
Calling from a 646 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello? You hear me?
Hello. Yes, I can hear you. Who's this?
Yeah, this is Niall from Trinidad.
Niall from Trinidad. How are
Hello,
you?
Niall.
How you doing?
Doing well.
The reason I was calling, I see you guys were talking about the Kyrie Irving incident, the controversy, and now I'm an island guy from the islands, and I kind of wonder this whole controversy for African Americans, because from what I was told, I mean, I've been to New York, visited New York many times, stayed in New York. The thing with the, I hear a lot of African Americans, because when this controversy came out, a lot of friends who sent me videos and stuff showing me, about the movie, was it Negroes to whatever it is?
We don't need to say it just because it's I don't want to promote it anymore, but yeah.
Yeah. So there was saw a lot of videos, local barbershops. I heard them speaking about it. And I'm like, what is this all about? Didn't even bother to even see the documentary. But I kind of playing kind of devil advocate from what I was hearing, what they were talking about, and they were saying, I guess maybe with the blacks and the Jews is like, you're told like, well, you should always forget about slavery. It didn't happen. Jim Crow didn't happen. But when it comes to like the Jews, it's almost like, well, always remember the Holocaust. Mm-hmm. Remember this, remember that. And I kind of noticed when I heard this, and I kind of realized like some of the, like Jaylen Brown and other players, because you kind of noticed like, with the whole thing with Adams, what was the guy for the guy who owned the Suns, like everybody dropped down on that.
Robert Sarver.
And it was like, right, Robert Sarver. Everybody was like, oh yeah, he got to go. But when it came to this incident, nobody said anything. And I kind of feel it's a kind of untold story. Like, well, we know how these people have benefited from atrocities, yet these people haven't. And I understand when you're saying why don't they just combine and be together? Because at the end of the day, we're all under, like you said, under the racist boot of the white supremacists.
Yeah.
But it seems like because one set of people were treated unfairly than others, and some people may have benefited more of it because the Holocaust folks have got a lot of money back from a type of repatriation, while still yet the blacks have not got anything, meaning the ones we still trying to get repatriations from the folks in the Caribbean. You have the folks in Africa still trying to get repatriation, but yet the Jews have gotten a lot of repatriation. So I feel like there's some type of animosity, what kind of triggers into this type of people following this type of nonsensical stuff, thinking that, oh, we are the true people, and
Right.
you know, all this kind of rubbish. And then another thing too, just had it in my mouth.
Well, let me respond to
So,
what
yeah.
you said earlier, if that's all
Okay.
right. Like,
No, go ahead.
so, I mean, one, this is what I was trying to hint at a little bit earlier, which is what the difficulty, I think, with people like myself speaking about this is that you can be sympathetic to this kind of tension where black people in this country are like, my entire experience is being told, I'm being told that it's illegitimate. Racism is over. Even though this country was built on an economic system of chattel slavery, forget about it. And if you are in a condition of poverty and you're still reaping the kind of consequences of this horribly racist system, that's on you. And then there is a group of people who there's a perception that Jewish people are just better off despite experiencing such an atrocity, and then that tension is exploited to create this kind of like anti-Semitic ecosystem and really a bigotry within the black community, which we need to combat, because like I wouldn't characterize what Jewish people have what has happened in the wake of the Holocaust as them benefiting from it, because I mean millions of their family members were gassed and died, and you know the maybe perhaps the reason that there's more of like an understanding here in this country is because there's like a mythology about what we did in World War II where we saved you, right? And I feel like that's an easier narrative for the white power structure to stomach than the unjust narrative, which we were instrumental in this country, which is chattel slavery, as opposed to, hey, you know, we were the saviors in World War II. And so there's a lot going on there. But do you see what I'm saying about that?
Oh yeah, no, I agree on what you were saying. I was just giving you the perspective because I kind of been hinting that you've been, yeah, I've been kind of hinting that you've been kind of like asking, because I've been hearing you I follow you guys on Majority Report. I actually followed Sam when he used to be on Air America with Jareem Garofalo, so I've been following you guys a long time. And not a funny thing is, I was in the Navy, I was in service, and I used to download his podcast to listen when I was over there, just to listen to his stuff. So that tells you how long ago this has been. But I just gave you that perspective, so because I kind of hinted in the last couple of weeks, even when you was talking with Brandon, I kind of felt you tried to ask a question, but Brandon didn't kind of buck with it. So when you brought it again today, I was like, I gotta call and just give her another thing that's kind of going on. It's like a kind of untold story that you're kind of hearing in the background, but it's something that you won't. I'm afraid some people may be afraid to say that, but I know you guys are willing to listen. So I'm just giving you another perspective of why. Because even with Jaylen Brown, I kind of hinted when Shannon Sharp had said something about I feel it's a little bit too far, and they're asking to go too far and having them do these things. This is the reason why. Because in certain areas in the community, they believe that the same thing we just spoke about, how those folks, even though it was atrocity, even though it was bad, they seem to have somehow may have benefited from it, while we, on the other hand, have not benefited from anything, and yet we are told that, oh, just forget about it, go ahead, but that, because at the same instance, I've been to Germany. I've been to the Holocaust. Those particular what's these things called? The camps. Mm-hmm. I've gone there. You're doing the tours, but then the first thing somebody will say is, "Well, we just recently built the Smithsonian African American Museum in Washington. They had memories of all this going on. We recently had to have this built over here, but yet this has been going on. They had stuff for the Jewish community to commemorate this atrocity that happened, but yet this has not happened for us. We just recently got this. You had Nazi hunters, Simon Wiesbach, tracking down these people that did atrocity to them. Yet, no repatriation for those folks of color during slavery, no hunters for them. They seem to kind of just go away. So when you start seeing that dynamic, I kind of see like I can understand why these people, why certain African Americans have a kind of resentment and probably don't really say much about it. It's kind of these things like, you know, you see police brutality happens all the time. We know about it. People don't believe it. We just keep it to ourselves. It's the same thing like on this thing over here. We see these things happening. We just keep it to ourselves because we are known that if we say something, is that it's not going to be reported or it's going to be downplayed.
All right, well, we got to jump, but I appreciate you calling in to give your perspective just because, you know, like, it's something that needs to be explored more, as you said. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, what is being tapped into with this?
Right. And thank you for your call. Continue. I was glad when you had this show because I didn't know Bradley, he's made me money.
Oh no!
Hope you didn't use it. Hope you didn't try anything this past weekend, though.
No. I'm a Jets. I love the Jets. I love the Mets. But I was like, I find you a little bit premature. I'm thinking that they would going to win them. I was like, no. I was like, I actually thought Bradley. I thought you were tanking deliberately because some of the games I'm like,
it was his heat check. Niall.
I was pulling up from 60.
Not because when you listen to Bradley talk, his knowledge of the game, it convinced me on certain things. I say, you know something, I'm going to go with that. And Bradley been with me. When you covered these other picks last week, I was like, I thought you were deliberately taking. I was like, if he's trying to let Emma win, he's trying to get Emma some because those are some ridiculous
trying to be nice.
Things.
I would love that.
I was just trying to keep it close.
Yeah, right?
That's why I speculated that because you were kind of saying certain things. It's like, this is not the same guy who's been winning me money 3 weeks in a row.
All right, now gotta jump. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Niall.
Thanks so much.
All right, bye.
I love that name too, Niall. Good name.
Good name.
Good name. All right, we're gonna take one more call really quickly. Final call of the day. Calling from a 310 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Mike from West Hollywood.
Mike from West
How
Hollywood.
you doing?
Hi, Mike.
Doing well.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you all right.
Great. I promised myself that if I ever got the opportunity, Emma, I would tell you how much I appreciate it that you took over for Michael. I got the rare chance to meet Michael here in 2020 on Super Tuesday, and it was a thrill for me to meet him. And I've been a fan of your work, and I just think it's fantastic that you were the one picked to take his place. I can't think of anybody better.
Thank
you. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate that.
That means a lot. Thank you.
And I want to tell you about, good. I want to tell you about 3 sports movies, if you will.
Okay.
One is the best of all time sports movie, bar none, 8 Men Out, about the Black Sox scandal. John Sayles is an amazing director. I mean, it's just a great sports movie.
Called?
It covers 8 Men Out.
Okay.
John Cusack's in it. It's fantastic. If you haven't heard of it, please go see it. It's terrific.
Yeah, that
sounds great. And then the other one, it really is. And I don't know if you're familiar with John Sayles' work, but there's not a better progressive, liberal, director working anywhere than John Sayles.
Cusack
He's terrific.
Is good at picking those projects too, because he's got some good politics as well.
I think he was a big mover in that and pushing that project through, by the way.
That makes sense.
And then the other movie I really think a lot of people don't think it's a sports movie, but I do, is Searching for Bobby Fischer. It's about
that
a little
counts.
chess prodigy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Chess is a sport. Come on.
I said it counts. It counts.
Okay, cool.
I agree, yeah. And that's a great story.
And it's really great.
Totally.
If I had my way, everybody who coached youth leagues would have to watch that movie.
Yeah.
It's just great.
And
then the other one is a weird one, and it's a John Wayne movie of all people. It was made in 1955, and it's about a football coach who gets kicked out of coaching because he's gambling on games, and a desperate Catholic college in New York hires him to revitalize the football program in hopes of saving the university. and Donna Reed plays a social worker who is on John Wayne's case because he has a daughter that he's in an ugly child custody battle with the ex-wife, and so he has to deal with Donna Reed. And there's one of the things I really loved about this movie is the little girl who is, John Wayne's daughter, probably like 10, 11. She's talking to Donna Reed at a football game, and Donna Reed says, "Winning is really important to you, isn't it?" She goes, "My dad says that winning isn't everything; it's the only thing."
Oh.
And that was attributed to Vince Lombardi. There's really this little girl in a Donna Reed movie. With
No
John
way!
Wayne.
What's the movie
And
called?
it's called
Trouble Along the Way.
It's called Trouble Along the Way. And it's just, it's a weird movie. I mean, the sexism and politics get really kind of twisted in it, but there's so many,
understandably so for the time period.
No, but I think I remember this. My mom is a big Turner Classic Movies fan, and by big I mean she watches it on every day. It's on in the background of when I was growing up in our house, and I believe I've caught a bit of Trouble Along the Way.
Another good one I'd recommend is this from 2008. This movie called Sugar. It's about a baseball player who basically tracking his career path from
the kiss in the Dominican is coming up.
Exactly.
Yeah, I heard it, that I haven't seen it. I'll definitely make a point of seeing
very
it. Bradley.
good. It's like his path from a minor leaguer. I mean, from a kid in the Dominican Republic being scouted by major league scouts, moving to a small town in Iowa, playing minor league ball, and then getting called up and how his career manifest. So that's another good one. But I will definitely check these out. These are good recommendations.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, you bet. But definitely 8 Men Out. Must see.
All right, I already wrote it down. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Left is best.
Left is
All right,
best.
take care.
Bye. All right, we're going to read some IMs, and then we will get out of here. Antifa Lockhart, the best sports movie is the Super Bowl Shuffle. I haven't heard of that. Antifa Lockhart also adds, for the crime of running Justin Fields into that line to end the game, the Chicago Bears of Arlington Heights must punish Luke Getsy. He must be fired from McCann and into the sun.
The Super Bowl Shuffle is the 85 Bears song.
Oh, dumb. Antifa Lockhart, you're relentless.
He's really relentless with the Arlington Heights.
Blasphemers, none of you said The Sandlot, then that is simply unacceptable. Bradley said The Sandlot. Bradley said The Sandlot. The Sandlot is cute. It's just doesn't move me emotionally, and sports move me emotionally. So
it's just
I grew up watching The Sandlot. A lot of my movies growing up that I have resonance with involve, I don't know.
Oh, and another one that's, I don't know if you've seen this one, that I love. It's another baseball movie. Is Everybody Wants Some. It's Richard Linklater. It's more of a hang movie because that's what Linklater does, obviously. Yeah. But it's about a college baseball team, and it's just such a fun atmosphere. It's just a great, funny, enjoyable watch. So gotcha. I would definitely recommend that one as well.
Skippy says, surprisingly, Jeff Saturday seems like a competent coach. I mean, we'll going to wait and see. We can't make these big proclamations yet because there's a lot of veteran coaches on that staff, and my guess is they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah, you got Gus Bradley and John Fox, former Bears coach John Fox.
Tim from Minneapolis, is there an ESVN Twitch channel, or will that stay on the MR channel?
Oh, well, we might just...
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We'll make a win for us, but we've just been,
it's been an insane few weeks for me, and so
we'll get to it.
I want to get to that kind of stuff. And the final IM of the day. Gotta pick. Fruity Giuliani. It didn't get amazing reviews, but The Way Back was an incredibly moving and great movie. Ben Affleck acted his ass off in it, playing an alcoholic high school basketball coach. It's worth a watch.
Yeah, I do want to watch that, actually.
I did hear, some good things, some bad. So if you say it's good, Fruity Giuliani, I trust you.
Yeah, we trust you.
All right, guys. Stay tuned for Wednesday. Right after the Majority Report, we'll be going not at our normal 4 p.m. time, a little bit earlier than that to give our picks for Thanksgiving and for the whole NFL weekend. For tonight... What's our pick? Because tonight, let's see what the spread is. 10 points.
Bills Browns?
No.
Did Bills Browns happen already?
Yes.
What happened?
Oh, the Bills won.
It was just nothing interesting besides the Detroit of it all?
Yeah. Right. 49ers, Cardinals.
Oh, I
Tonight,
I don't
yeah.
care. I just don't
I
care.
know, I know, I know.
What's the over
I
under?
hate watching the Cardinals play because it's just like a stupid Cliff Kingsbury.
What's the over under?
43.
All right.
That's pretty low.
Just none of there's I don't
And it's a 10-point spread.
I'm not recalling a single normal Monday or Thursday night football game this year, so I'm gonna say like
I think the Cardinals cover the spread. I think 10 points is a little much. But I don't feel that confident about that.
I just
because
think
the
it's gonna be a weird
49ers are going to
game.
win. The 49ers will win this game.
I think it'll be like 49ers 10, Cardinals 9.
No. The 49ers will score more than that. I still think I'm going to say 21. No.
I'm gonna say 49ers 27, Cardinals 10.
Okay. So they do cover the spread, the 49ers. You don't think it'll be close. I'm going to say 24-17 49ers.
And Kyler's not playing? It's someone Martin in the YouTube chat.
Yeah,
said
I
no
think
Murray.
that's why the spread's so big.
It's
I
Cole
knew
McCoy?
that, but
it's Cole McCoy? Who's
Yeah.
okay, yeah. No, I'm sticking with it.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with it.
I might change mine. People joking that Kyler's been quote injured since Warzone came out. Oh,
I'm
right.
sorry I can't play.
I'm gonna say then I will say like 24. I'm gonna say 28-14. I
Okay.
think they'll get over though.
They get 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
I do think that they cover now that I've kind of internalized that Kyler's not playing.
Right.
All
we'll
right,
see.
guys. See you on Wednesday.
Enjoy the
before
game.
Thanksgiving.
Bye.